Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from today, folks. Welcome. My voice is going already, that's not a good omen. Welcome to another Shopper Intelligence webinar. My name is David Shukri, and my co-host today is, of course, Andrew Arnold. Morning, mate.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
I always do. I always say good morning to you, and I know it's the afternoon where you are. I will get that right one day. Um,
We
so
live in hope.
today You will live in hope. One day, mate. I will. I promise. So today we are going to do something we have not done before because today we are going to take you in store with us for some insights from the aisles. Now, you may well be following either Andrew or me, or perhaps both of us, if you are really keen on LinkedIn. And if you are, you will have seen that he and I post very regularly on the things that we've seen in stores. But more than that, we tell you what shoppers think of the activations, the executions, the off location, basically the things that you sweat blood and tears over to get right every day and every week of the year. So today we are showcasing six of the best. When I say six of the best, how have we measured that? We've measured that by the amount of engagement that those LinkedIn posts have received from people just like you. So things like likes, things like light bulbs, and of course the comments that people have put on those posts and on those threads. So this is the stuff that you've liked the most, and we are now sharing it with the wider world of FMCG in Australia and New Zealand to share not just the good and perhaps Andrew in one or two cases the maybe not so good, but
Mm.
also the bigger, the bigger, we'll find out in a moment, the bigger so what that goes alongside it. So please get involved. If you haven't already, give us a thumbs up. Thank you, Kieran. It's always good to have you, mate. Good day. How are you? Give us a thumbs up in the chat if you're pumped, if you're psyched for this next half an hour, 35 minutes or so. And also get involved as you have done on LinkedIn. You can do so anonymously. Questions will be anonymous, and you can also upvote those questions as well. So the ones that you like the most will bubble up to the top. Hopefully, if we have a little bit of time at the end, we will try to cover a few of those off. So, Andrew, tell me, what are you looking forward to most about this session? Haven't prepped this question, so getting you on the hop here.
Ooh, on the hop, I love it. Look, the big thing for me is that obviously, we've done these posts and we've said some things in these posts, but this is a chance now for us to actually go into these in a bit more depth and actually explain why these things are good, what things they're actually that we're using as a benchmark because shoppers are saying that this is exactly what they're looking for. It's just a chance to get a bit more under the hood, for want of a better description, on this. So I'm really exciting. It's really exciting for me to get a chance to do that because there's only so much you can say in a LinkedIn post. This is a chance to actually talk a bit more about these things and why they're good, and some of them possibly not so good.
Definitely, we'll find out. We'll find out. But I mean, we are all focused on best in class and positivity and trying to bring the best to the fore. So we will definitely be doing that. But you're right. We often get asked, can you give us some real life examples? Can you show us what this looks like in store? So this, I think, is the closest really that we can do to achieving that. And Andrew is going to get to talk today about meat, and he gets to talk about cheese. So he is a happy fellow.
That's me in a
Now,
nutshell.
in a nutshell, meat and cheese. Before all of that, how about a quick icebreaker to get you thinking, to get you in the mindset of a shopper? I know we spend a lot of time thinking consumer, thinking brand. Of course, we have to. That's vitally important. But let's step into the mind of shoppers for just a moment. You're entering into a supermarket right now on your weekly shop. I posted this on LinkedIn about a week ago, and it's born out of this idea that we are hearing and talking a lot about price and offers and promotions, particularly in Australia and New Zealand at the moment. And we know, because shoppers are telling us, that there are instances, or a number of instances and categories, where those shoppers are looking actually for more price assurance, fixed low price, EDLP, whatever you want to call it. So let me launch this one quickly. Here we go, relaunch poll. So, very simple question. Which category scores the highest with shoppers for the importance of fixed low prices? Is it chilled juice? Is it canned pasta? Is it canned fruit? Or do you think it could be muesli bars? And we've covered this, I think, not this exact question, obviously, Andrew, did we? But we last session was called Getting Off the Price Merry-Go-Round, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we touched on this idea of the balance between offers and fixed low price.
Hmm.
Okay, we'll let this run for a little second. I'm very interested to know if we get the same result. The result of the poll on LinkedIn was very, very close. Chilled juice came out on top, just ahead of canned fruit, in terms of the category that shoppers in that category ascribe the most importance to fixed low prices versus the others. Right, looks like we've settled down a little bit. Had 100, 115. Wow, okay, fantastic. Okay, I'm going to end it. Let's have a look at the results, just see what you thought. Correct answer, I think, has popped up on screen. So 33% of you got it. In reverse order, it's muesli bars ranks at 143rd on the importance of fixed low price. That's out of 189 categories, by the way. Then comes chilled juice. Then comes canned pasta at 103. And up at 62 sits canned fruit. So well done, webinar crowd. You did better than the LinkedIn crowd did. And maybe did I sneak out the answer by accident before this? I don't think so. But no, well done. 33% of you in the mind of the shopper. I can tell you a few others, by the way, if you're interested, because this is something we'll do through this session. Nappies of a disposable kind. In Australia, this is top for fixed low price importance. Then cat food. And then baby toilet. I imagine it's probably pretty similar in New Zealand. Andrew, what do you reckon?
Pretty similar. Pretty similar.
Okay. All right. So I hope that has got you in the mindset of the shopper today. Now, owing to the way that we're delivering the content that we're sharing and the nature of this session, there is no big slide deck as such that we're going to share with you after this. But what I will do, hopefully I'm going to remember to do this, I will put the links to all of these posts in the chat before the end of the session. I give you a heads up when I'm going to do that so that you can lift them out and you can go back to the originals at your leisure and have a look at some of the statistics and some of the insights that we've pulled out. Final thought then, before we get going, I know Andrew's itching to get into his first example. Can we encourage you to think differently over the next 30 minutes? We are experiencing the lowest levels of satisfaction among ANZ shoppers in a number of years, significantly lower than shoppers' satisfaction in the UK, in Ireland, in the US, and in Canada. So really now is an opportunity this year to think about what you're seeking to achieve and how to activate on that in a way such that they will put your product in the basket. We can seize this opportunity to drive value and experience and satisfaction back into ANZ food and liquor retail. And it starts by putting shoppers at the heart of perhaps more of what we're doing. So without further ado, let's get this going, Andrew. And you have something meaty, like what I did there, for us to get our teeth into. I've spent all night thinking about that one. Let me find the picture. Hopefully, you can see a meat shelf in front of you.
Yes, we can. That's good. So this one was this picture that I saw in it was still a countdown back when I took this late last year. It may well be a Woolworths by now, depending on whether this particular store is on the refurb process. But this was a really good example that I noticed about helping a shopper to navigate a display, which sometimes can be quite daunting. Fresh meat. So obviously, fresh meat has got a variety of proteins that they have available. So there is pork, there is lamb, there is chicken, beef, venison, etc., etc. Those things are all sorts of there. But there's also this thing about the types of cut that you're looking at. There's the type of presentation, whether it be in terms of packaging, there's the size of the packaging, big packs, small packs, so on and so forth. And there's also this other piece around exactly free farm, free organics, free farming, free range, whatever way we want to skin the cat on that. There is a lot of different things that is going on in meat at the moment, and it can be very, very confusing for shoppers if it's just not making sense as to where these things are. So what really struck me with this when I noticed this was a really good attempt by Countdown to actually help the shopper navigate a difficult display. So you see all those roundels there, which are coming out of the shelf, saying, "Here's where the plant-based stuff is. Here's where the organic stuff is." So it's not just about here's lamb, here's pork, etc. It's about helping people navigate through these different things, which mean different things to different people. You can even see there that there is a little silver fern there, which that's highlighting stuff which is New Zealand produced and New Zealand farmed, because it's not everything that we get in the New Zealand meat cabinets necessarily is from New Zealand. Some of it will be from overseas markets. So when I looked at this, the other thing which really popped into my head is the piece around what is the so what with this. So obviously we know it's a difficult category to navigate, but you want to look at something which goes, okay, so why do we really need to do this? The fact that it's confusing isn't really enough of a trigger for people to need to do something in this space. But when the shoppers are telling you that there is a big need here, then that's why this becomes important. And the metric that was key for this was what we call walking away. So walking away essentially is a metric that we look at to help us understand if the shoppers can't find what they're looking for, how likely are they to up sticks and go somewhere else? There's other metrics underneath the walk away overarching metric that we look at. But generally speaking, it's like how much of there is a risk to the store if they can't find what they're looking for. And all the fresh meat categories rank extremely highly on this metric. So we have about 120 categories in New Zealand that we look at. Beef ranks 11th out of 120. Chicken rates 19th out of 120. Lamb rates 7th. And pork rates 3rd. So that's a massive risk if you don't get it right, if you don't help the shopper to navigate a confusing display. And there's a massive risk there that if they like where they go afterwards, because they've left this store and they've gone somewhere else, if they actually like that experience, there's a big chance you've lost them permanently. They won't come back.
Mm. Andrew, can I ask you a question? Was this an iterative thing that you noticed, or was it the result of a big relay and a big piece of work? Do you remember?
I believe this was a result of a big relay. So this wasn't overly iterative as far as I recall. So this was really just a case of it wasn't there one day and then suddenly it was the next. Now, obviously, we have been working with Woolworths New Zealand behind the scenes on a whole bunch of things in regards to shopper needs and shopper mindsets and so forth. So I was expecting to see something like this, but it came pretty much all at once, which is great. Now, it wouldn't have been just our stuff that they would have been looking at there. They would have been looking at their own metrics and their own measures as well. But to see it come through, because this was being, brought up as a pain point, being brought up as something which needed to be done to help shoppers out in this area, was a real satisfying thing to see in the flesh once it actually came through.
It's good. Good. And as you can see on the bottom, got a lot of engagement when you posted it up on LinkedIn. So clearly a lot of other people out there were interested in this particular example. Can I throw in some Australian context?
Oh, please.
Thank you very much. Interestingly enough, we don't see the same high rankings across the board on those fresh meat cuts in Australia as we do in New Zealand. With the exception of lamb, which ranks number eighth highest walk away, and pork is 13. But then you get to beef and chicken and it tails off quite quickly. So beef is at 39 and chicken is 101. So I thought, oh, well, that's a bit flat. So I thought I'll look up something else as well, Andrew. And as you mentioned there are different degrees of walk away, right? So there's you can buy nothing, you can trade into another category, you can go to another store, or you could buy it on your next trip. And if you think about each of those, they each have different levels of challenge for both you as a retailer and you as a supplier. And I would argue there's a tick and a cross that could go in each of those boxes if you made it into a quadrant. Anyway, that's something that's definitely worth knowing, because to your point, Andrew, there are levels of risk associated here. This is one where we always say, if you don't know this, you need to know what the walkaway risk is, and that needs to be on the agenda when you're going and talking to a retailer. Interestingly, buying something else in Australia is pretty high. So if you're looking for lamb or pork, you are very, very likely to buy something else if you can't find that, rank 2 and 4, and even beef and chicken are 14 and 24. So the walk away is more around switching into something else. Therefore, not as detrimental potentially as it could be, but certainly if you think about other categories, it wouldn't be ideal if you had shoppers trading out into something entirely different. A little bit of context for you there.
Yeah, and I think the lesson here is yes, obviously this is a fresh meat example, but one of the things that we've said at the outset is that just think like you are a shopper yourself. When you're looking at something like this, what other categories in the store have a level of complexity that maybe don't have this kind of treatment on them? How could you actually help a shopper better navigate a shelf which is confusing to them? And again, I've got another example that I'm going to talk through in the cheese a bit later on. So I don't want to, steal my own thunder at this point. But when we get to that one, have a think in the next few minutes, everybody who's actually watching this right now. You are an expert in your own category. You know it inside out. Otherwise, you wouldn't be an expert in that category. So what might make sense and be quite simple and clear and plain to you may not translate through into the average shopper who doesn't know much about your category.
Yeah.
So just think about that, and I'll expand on that a bit more when we talk cheese in a few minutes.
I'm going to chuck a couple out as well. So in Australia, very high walkaway rate in tea, rank of 7th. Stick it in the chat. Do you think that's a complicated, difficult to navigate shelf in tea, or easy one to navigate in tea? Put your shopper's hat on. We've got 183 shoppers out there at the moment. Tea, easy or difficult to navigate? Another one, coffee, 12th walk away. I'll give you a last one, cosmetics, 17th highest walk away in Australia. Any liquor folks out there? I know there's a few of you. I can also tell you the top 5 walk away categories in liquor: mid-strength beer, full-strength beer, liqueurs, premium beer and rum. Any one of those 5 categories that you're responsible for, get all over that statistic and that insight, and then dig deeper. Obviously we can help with that, but dig deeper to understand what it is that needs to be done to prevent that walk away, because the risk is high. Okay, final wrap up on that one, Andrew, and we'll move on.
Yep.
Or did you?
No.
You already did.
No.
All right, fine.
Carry on. Yeah.
Okay. I was just looking for about 10 seconds of filler while I teed up the next image, but that's all good. We've done it now. Okay. So let's see. I'll keep the puns going, shall I? Let's see if this one gives us wings. Aha.
I saw what you did there.
They don't get any better. Okay, so what are we looking at? This is one that I saw about 6 or 8 weeks ago. Clearly an off location, very, very visible, very vibrant, exactly what you'd expect from this brand. It generated rather a lot of conversation, commentary about the execution, particularly in light of it appearing to cover up some other products behind it, possibly coffee. Looks like we've got some soft drinks in there as well. So a few comments on that. A little bit of commentary around things like occasion, mission. Who are we targeting here with this display? And also more latterly, Andrew, you pointed out, and we'll come on to this in a minute, the product mix seems to be interesting on these display units. However, the point that I made was a simple one, because we look at relativity a lot when we think about shoppers across the store. So the significance of something in your own category, as I think Andrew was alluding to just now, is important. But how does that fare relative to other categories? Because, of course, in something like secondary space and off locations, it matters a lot, because a lot of people are vying for very little space. And it transpires that when we ask shoppers where they have bought different categories from in store, the top 5 in Australia are actually fruit biscuits, pain rubs and creams, weight management products, portable breakfast, and boxed chocolates. And energy drinks comes all the way down the list at number 79. Two things to bear in mind, of course. One, I guess you can argue self-fulfilling prophecy. If for example, fruit biscuits is on off location secondary space a lot, then that's going to drive that. The other important point, Andrew, is what is it you're trying to achieve? And as I said in my post, it doesn't mean that this is a failure, but it does mean, or isn't going to work, but it does mean you want to be sure what you're trying to get as an end result, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, it's important here. Full disclosure: I used to work for Red Bull. I worked for them for 6 years, so I'm very familiar with these kinds of displays and the sort of things that they're thinking about when these things are going up.
And you left on good terms, right?
Oh, I think I did on very good terms. Yeah, so
Good, good,
that's good. And Red Bull, continued on to be as a client as well. So, but the point here is that this is the sort of category where you really have to think about when the shopper actually wants to use the product. So there was actually one of the comments that was in your post, David, that said, I think it was something on the lines of, people don't want to buy a warm energy drink can. And absolutely they don't. So again, that gets you thinking around the point of view is that, well, what actually is this display being used for? What is the reason for it? Is it to move product, or is it to put out there a marketing message? Is it something along those lines? Because again, if you look back to what these numbers are for energy drink in New Zealand, energy drink is the number one category in New Zealand grocery for immediate consumption. So that means people are buying it from the chilled locations. They're buying it from the front of the store. They're buying it from the checkout chilled units. They're buying it from the main fridge locations. They're not buying it if they want to drink it straight away from something like this. So that suggests straight away that this is not necessarily someone who's walking along going, oh, I'm going to grab one can from here and crack it the moment I actually leave the store. Clearly, that's not the case. So it's signposting the category. It's making them go, oh, that's right, maybe I do want a Red Bull, and then they're trying to hunt it out in the rest of the store. So if that's the role, then that means that the other locations need to be signposted in a way which makes it easy for them to complete that mission, because that's their mindset. Mm-hmm. So that also suggests, in that case, if this location is actually going to move product from people who are not in the immediate consumption mindset, then why are single cans here? Why are there not pre-packs on this display? Because that's what happens in carbonated soft drinks as well. People buy big packs, multi-packs, for pantry stocking. They bring them to take them home and put them in the fridge because they're not going to drink them straight away. Why is that not the case here? Why is it not a pre-pack, a 4 or an 8? And even the 12s, if the 12 is still around from back in my day. But, the mindset matters so much. All right. So if you know that this location is not actually going to be used for people drinking straight away, then what is the best use of this space?
Mm-hmm. Spot on. I haven't got anything to add to that, mate, other than to say exactly to crystallize. Yes, example here, very interesting. We can debate. If we've got anyone from Red Bull who was involved in this one, let us know if you feel comfortable. I'm sure you may or may not do. But the bigger issue there is exactly this point. What you're trying to achieve. Does the product and the placement support that? Does the linkage back to the main location support that? And have you got the insights that you need from shoppers in your category to justify, to support, to demonstrate that this is worthwhile activity? It costs a hell of a lot. I'm sure it costs a hell of a lot to do this kind of display, does it not, Andrew? Particularly when you make it look as impressive as that. And in other categories, it'll be the same. We see things around the store which make you scratch your head sometimes as to, well, what was the play? Was that designed to get me to the main aisle? Was that about visibility? In which case, where's the signage? Where's the linkage? How are we making it easy for shoppers to go from there to there? Yeah. So have that in mind.
And I'm not saying this is a criticism of Red Bull, because I actually have a pretty clear feeling that this would have been a marketing side of things. This sort of thing is not usually designed just to move product. It's about getting awareness, getting the message out there. Summer plans taking off. It's a very clear activation. So I'm not saying that, bad on you, Red Bull. Why'd you do it this way? What I'm using this as an example of is that if they knew that's what this display was for, is everybody else out there in grocery world thinking along the same lines of what role does this actually play for me? And as a result of that, your KPIs at store level for your field teams will need to reflect that. If it's not about moving product, then don't judge them on moving product. It's about, do I have the requisite number of displays up to give the marketing message that I want? So that's the second last thing I'll say on this. And real quickly, the final thing is, this is also a really good example of when, just make sure that you actually have a consistent message out there, because, you've got 15 trays there of product. One of them's 473 mil and the other one's, all the others are 250s. So that just sort of snuck in the side there on the right-hand side. All those 473s in the top line there make it a little bit out of whack. So but that's my OCD side coming out, I think.
Yes. No, you're right. Absolutely. We're not critiquing the individual thing here as much as talking about the bigger principles. Step back, think about the wider principles and the bigger principles. Now we've got two down. I wanted to drop in another quick question, because we're talking a lot about in-store execution. We're talking about getting away the activations that you want in the right way that's going to be most effective for you, for the retailer, and of course for the shopper. So another quick question for you here. Sorry, let's end that one. Let's go with this one instead. In-store impact. How satisfied are you with what you're actually getting away at shelf? Interesting just to see what the mood is out there. Very satisfied. We get what we ask for. All good. Somewhat, we get most of it. There's a few misses, but pretty good. So. We're putting more stuff forward, making more recommendations, asking for more than we're actually getting, or it's a challenge. We really struggle to get much away. Again, there could be a lot of reasons behind these responses. I'm not going to say that we can diagnose every single individual situation while we sit on this line in the next 15 minutes, but Andrew, it's probably worth considering if you feel like you're having more misses than hits, or if you feel like you're struggling to get much away, maybe there's a missing ingredient. Maybe there's something else you want to put on the table when you go and have those conversations.
Yeah. And I think I just saw a chat just come up there saying supermarkets are very conservative when it comes to this kind of thing. And yeah, they absolutely are. But I mean, I'd like to go back to the old saying, the very old saying of a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So if we just accept that, then we're not actually doing the best thing by our shoppers. And just accepting the fact that they don't let this sort of stuff happen. Because in many cases, categories need this because shoppers want it.
It's true. Look, it's tough. You've been on that side of the table. And many years, I know. I have sat in the buying chair in retail in the UK, so I know that it's difficult. We know that it's challenging. We know that it's a challenging time. However, as you said, Andrew, it starts with the first step. If you are someone who feels like it's more challenging, if you're part of that 40 odd 50% that said so, or it's a challenge, consider reaching out to us, see if we can help with things like this, give you some indication around where your categories sit on where they're bought from in store, traffic and spend measures, importance performance measures, importance of signage, information, location, all that stuff might be the 1% that helps you get the extra activity, the extra activation away in the next quarter, and that starts to change your relationship and your interaction with the retailer. Janet, I don't know if you've put your hand up deliberately or accidentally, but I'm recognizing your hand is up. I think hand's not up anymore, but it's all good. If you have a question, let us know. And we're going to go on to number 3. I don't know, what are we going to do with this? We're going to wash our hands with this one, maybe? Here we go. Over to you, mate.
Right. So this one is a really good example of listening to what shoppers want and actually taking a slightly different tack. So this is the sort of category, obviously this is paper towels, what we're looking at here. This is the sort of category where people automatically assume that it's all about price, that it's all about what is the cheapest thing, that one paper towel is just as good as another, that there's nothing really here except essentially a race to the bottom. And well, you may well assume that is the case, but when you look into the shopper data, what comes out quite clearly is that it's actually not that at all. So price is actually not the most important thing in this category. relative to other categories. Price is always going to have a role to play, but it's about how much of a role it plays. How much do you need to worry about it? How much do you need to be concerned with it? Or do you simply say, okay, there's a certain level I've got to do here, and I do it, and I don't go over and above that. Perfect example of this. You've got to do a price play in paper towels to an extent, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to go hard. And the big thing that really matters in paper towels relative to other categories is sustainability. And hence what we have here is a message which is very clean and very clear. It's a call out to try me. It's a call out to say, hey, have you seen us before, buy us, etc. But it's all about the fact that this is got recyclable or recycled plastics in its packaging. So 30% of it being recycled plastics, which, as we all know, is quite hard to do with soft plastic. So this is a call out that is trying to bring attention to something that actually matters to shoppers, because they look for this. It matters to them, and they've also said that they wanted improvements in this area. Because we have another metric as well, which is really relevant to this, and that is a question which is to say, for example, shoppers, if you are wanting improvements in packaging, how much do you want improvements in packaging? So it's one thing to say that, packaging, it doesn't work, but do you want improvements in it as well? And this is actually the 6th highest category in the whole of New Zealand grocery, where shoppers are saying, improve your packaging, give us better options. So this is tapping perfectly into the shopper sentiment out there and the shopper mindset.
And a really interesting one. We won't spend too much longer on this one, just in the interest of time. But what is interesting is, just for the comparison, Andrew, as we say a lot, it's not just because it looks one way in New Zealand doesn't mean it's the same in Australia. Actually, the rankings on this stuff, sustainability, importance, packaging improvement as a desired improvement, much more modest ranks for paper towel in Australia. I just wanted to sneakily pivot into another one that I put on LinkedIn, which we didn't feature, but it was very similar in that it was a sustainability message. This was in dental care. And the interesting thing was that the display unit featured toothbrushes, mouthwash, and toothpaste, all with very, very different scores on the importance of sustainability. Specifically, the message was around curbside recyclability of toothpaste. That's what you call it, right? Toothpaste. Rank of 48, but toothbrushes rank of 48. Toothpaste shoppers only rank at 142 on the importance of sustainability messaging in the category. So I think your point is really important. If it is up there, absolutely hero that. That's what I love about this. It's very clear. Circular economy message. I can see it from here. Very, very straightforward. Quite often what we see is multiple messages, clouding, confusing, distorting, making it very difficult for shoppers to see the wood for the trees. That's not a pun based on paper towel.
But it was, though.
But it was. And actually what you want to do is go into the insights and say, what are the top 1-2 messages, right? That's what we need to focus on.
And note as well that this is not on promotion, that there is not a price ticket, a special price ticket in sight, because in this category, being cheap isn't necessarily going to move the needle, but sustainability and the correct and a good call out of sustainability will move the needle.
Very good. Okay. So we're 35 minutes in. In the interest of time, Andrew, I'm going to skip one because I wanted to throw something else out there for those of you who are of a liquor persuasion, because this one was really interesting. Now, it's not so much because of what I saw in store that this is interesting, but it's interesting because of what it's associated with. So clearly I'm looking at red wine here. I spoke to a very senior figure in the industry not so long ago who said to me that their business looks at red wine as a holistic group of products. And I scratched my head and I thought that doesn't ring true to me, because that certainly is not the way that shoppers talk to us about the different varietals that they shop. So I posted this one just to underscore and share and shed some light on what that really looks like. And there was three important varietals in Australia: Shiraz, Cab Sav, Pinot Noir. If you're talking reds, when you look at space, they get a hell of a lot of it. And there were just three measures that I picked out, which really demonstrated how different those three shoppers groups are in each varietal. First one is their willingness to pay more for premium. So how willing are they to spend more for a more premium product? The Pinot Noir shopper ranks number 2, second highest category out of all 35 in liquor. Cab Sav is 5, and then Shiraz all the way down at 14th. So middle of the road on that premium trade up opportunity. Therefore, very different direction that you'd want to be steering those three varietals in. Next one, quickly moving on. Pre-store promotions encourage me to choose one particular retailer. Pinot Noir at 7th. So very important to have those pre-store promotions visible, driving shoppers into retailer A, B or C. Shiraz all the way down at number 22. Much less likely to be driving traffic in if you are talking about Shiraz, but focus on Pinot Noir. I should have said, sorry, excuse me, Cab Sav, number 3. So number 3, number 7 on the other two. And the last one, around planning. Where does the decision to buy that varietal actually happen? Pinot Noir, number 1 most unplanned category in liquor. In other words, that category decision is made in store. And Shiraz all the way down again at 22. So very, very different path to purchase, very different category roles that each of these play. And to me and to a lot of people who commented on this post, really, really vital then to distinguish and not be talking about a red wine shopper, because to be perfectly honest, there is no such thing as a red wine shopper. It can be broken down into these many different components. Any thoughts on that one, Andrew, before we move on?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example of a category, and it's not just in liquor as well, but in categories where the category view is one thing, but the segmentation view underneath is a completely different kettle of fish. And I would even extend that to brands as well. You can have a category role, but each brand within the category can play a very, very different role depending on what the characteristics of that brand are and how the shoppers perceive that brand. So depth is crucial to understanding exactly what is going on and how to build a better plan and how to better activate.
Yep. So get beneath the hood, look at what shoppers are actually saying, get the proof points in, and then you can correlate them or indeed disprove if you so choose versus other data sources, but actually have the visibility and have the proof points first before you make that call. Final poll, in-store execution. I flashed it up very briefly, but I'm going to relaunch it now. What are the biggest challenges then? We've talked a lot about in-store execution. Biggest challenge that you face today? Multiple choice, so you can pick more than one. Is it actually getting those off locations, securing them? Is it those restrictions around theatre? Is it an over focus on price versus execution, do you find? Or is it compliance in general? We looked at that image earlier of maybe some product covering up another product. Maybe there's compliance issues. I'm going to leave that running in the background, and we're going to go to the last one, Andrew, if that's good with you, mate, as well.
Yeah, that's fine.
So you've been waiting to get something cheesy going, and here it is.
Get the cheese. Here we go.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Spec cheese.
Right. So cheese. So this is the one that I mentioned earlier on, where it is a very, very good idea to step outside your knowledge of the category. So we're all category experts in whatever categories that we work in and that we oversee and that we play in. So we all know exactly what we're trying to achieve, what we want to do, and to us those categories are simple. They're easy. Then you stand in front of a display like this, which is for spec cheese in a new world over here in Auckland, and you go, if I didn't actually know anything about spec cheese, and by the way, I do because I love spec cheese, but if you didn't know anything about spec cheese, this is bewildering. This is difficult to try and get to what you want to get to. And the other thing which really stands out for me is the fact that there is no call-outs on this. The best way to really get people to interact the way you want them to interact with a display like this is to start calling out occasionality, is to start calling out the mindset, is to start, for example, if you look at this, spec cheese, it is the 8th highest category in New Zealand for buying for a particular use or a particular occasion. It's the 8th highest. It is the second highest category out of 120 for buying for entertaining. So for a party or for an event or something of that nature. So all that you need to get this to the next level is to have call outs around, here's your cheese board option for a party. This is what you want to do in order, if you're having an office get together, boom, 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 boom. All that kind of stuff is missing from this. It looks great, but it's not quite there because it is not talking to the shopper mindset that shoppers have when they're coming in looking to buy spec cheese. And it also doesn't really help the impulsive shopper either, because it's actually quite a highly impulsive category too. So it's the 35th highest category out of 120 around buying impulsively. But there's nothing really here which helps you to do an impulsive decision-making process, because you sort of, okay, there's a spec cheese, but it doesn't draw you in. So that's why I said at the outset that this is the perfect example of a category which is complex, dozens and dozens and dozens of SKUs, but it's not quite easy to shop as you would think it would be if you just didn't know anything about the category itself.
No, I think that's true. I mean, I have to. If there's any other poms on the call today, maybe I'm looking back in with rose-tinted spectacles on this one. But tell me what you think. I remember cheese, in particular in the UK, being much easier to shop. I remember it certainly being in. Okay, you might have had counters, but otherwise, I remember it being broadly in one location. And I remember signage being more useful. Pop it in the chat if you think I'm fantasizing about something that never existed. Also, pop it in the chat if there's a very good operational reason why it's split out the way it is in Australia and New Zealand. But to corroborate what you're saying, Andrew, in Australia, particular occasion, so buying for a particular occasion on spec cheese, 9th in Australia. So again, is that occasion messaging? Buying for entertaining, 6th. Again, introduce that would be great. Social out of home occasion, 24th, and planning by particular type of cheese, 13th. As you say, you look at that and you stand in front of that space and looking for that guidance. And on top of that, shoppers have actually said, if you could improve one thing in specialty cheese, make it layout, make it signage, make it information. All very high ranking scores for specialty cheese in Australia. I'm sure it'd be the same in New Zealand as well. So they're literally calling out for those improvements.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly the same situation over here. And again, if you're working in spec cheese or a similar type of category with lots of SKUs, lots of different segments and all the rest of it, just think about that. Take yourself outside that box and go, I am not a category expert right now. I am a shopper. And if I did not know anything about this category, how easy is it to navigate? And if the answer is it's not that easy to navigate, then you need to have a look at what actually shoppers are asking for in that category, be it more information at shelf, be it better signage, be it a more shopper-led layout, whatever it might be, to help a shopper who's come in looking for a brie and something else, but they don't know what it is, to actually find that brie quickly and help them make the choice that you want them to make for the other one.
Okay. Yes. Now I just flashed up in support of this the poll on in-store execution. So 40% of you said securing that off-location space in the first place is the challenge. 34% compliance. 32 the focus on price over execution. So again, what else do you need in your armory? There's something that may be missing that your scan data, your panel data is not going to support you with. Scan and panel are vital ingredients as part of your data and insights framework and jigsaw, but they're not going to tell you whether there is a missed opportunity in off-location space if you're not getting it at the moment. They're not going to tell you what it is beyond price that shoppers in your category are perhaps more interested in. And they're certainly not going to tell you what it is when you get to the fixture that shoppers in your category want to see, where they want help, what they'd like more of. That comes from shopper insights, and that is a critical component of this whole conversation. Paul Keeney, Trader Joe's do a good job with spec cheese in the US. Okay, I'm very fortunate enough to be going there next week. I will try and check out a Trader Joe's. Final thoughts, Andrew, while I just before I do that, last opportunity for you to get involved. If you'd like to get a copy of top 10s for off-location space, so this was very popular when I posted it. So the top 10 categories where shoppers say they are buying from off-location secondary space in Australia and New Zealand, hit yes in the chat now, and we will get that to you in the coming days. There we go. Lots of yeses.
Mm-hmm.
Was that Mark? Did Mark say yes? No, it must have been a different Mark.
No, it must be a different Mark, surely. Just give him a call to Mark.
It must be. There's more than one Mark. I know, more than one Mark. Right. Andrew, final comments from you while I load up our final thoughts.
Yeah. So, final thought for me on this whole thing is that, there's a lot of great stuff that is happening out in the trade in both countries at the moment, and we are fully aware of the fact that it is difficult in order to get off-location space, that it's difficult to do theatre, that it's difficult to do a lot of these things that we're saying that we should be considering doing in the trade at the moment. So this is not about trying to teach you how to suck eggs or anything of that nature. What this is actually highlighting the fact that, are you thinking about what role your activations are playing? Are you thinking about what actually the shoppers are saying to you in terms of things they're looking for? And are you meeting that need? Are you talking to those trigger points? Because if you want, it goes back to our webinar from last time. If you want to get away from just having to have a conversation about nothing but price, then these are the other aspects that the shoppers are saying they want that you can actually go for and start to activate and to try to do these things. So
perfect.
This, hopefully you've seen some things here which are going to make you think and go, well, actually, can I mix it up somehow with my activations? Is there some things I'm missing that maybe I could actually be doing instead of, or in addition to what I'm currently doing? Because, there's a lot of good stuff that's happening here. There's also some really good points to think about from the shopper point of view. What am I missing?
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. And let us leave you with these final thoughts as well. Pulling the lens right back, context is king. It sounds a bit twee, but it is. And this is all about how understanding what's going on in your category is a must. Knowing how that compares to what sits around your category and how that compares to your department. Now, how that compares to something that's going on the other side of the store, particularly for something as which is at such a premium as off locations. That is the difference between the goods and the greats. And that then leads into this idea of broadening your view. In other words, get out of your brand mindset and brand thinking, step into the world of the shopper that's got to put that thing into the basket. I think Andrew's referenced this really well a few times. Try to put yourself in the shoes of somebody going in through the door. Yes, you've got the brand power which comes into play, but actually thinking about what it is that's acting as a barrier or a stimulus to getting that product in the basket is going to make a massive difference, and also going to massively change your relationship with your retailers as well. And finally, last but not least, shopper is not a project. You can do a dip, you can do a spot dive into this stuff, that's all fine, but you will never bed it in. You will rarely get the full benefit, and you will always find you're playing catch up, because shoppers won't wait before you do your next dip to change their behavior again. They will have moved on and you will be playing catch up again. So embed it, bring it in as deeply as I can. Somebody said to me recently, we knew we were getting there on shopper because every meeting that we went to, we talked about shoppers. We brought them into the room. There was no empty chair sitting next to us. Okay, folks, thank you for sticking with us. It was a long one today. I hope you got some great value. Let us know in the poll. Thank you, Andrew, as always, mate.
Yeah, thank you, David.
And remember, if you want to catch any of our other webinars that we've done, head to shopperintelligence.com.au/webinars. We'll see you again very soon, I hope. Take care. Have a great week.